Yeah, we got a little antsy, I thought at times, and then got burnt because of it, which is good. It's a good teaching moment for us. I'll show them when they're up in the air, spinning around while the ball's getting dribbled by. That's why we say 90% of the game is played with your feet on the floor. It's hard to move when you're up in the air when the ball's getting dribbled by you. Little things that if we continue to clean those things up, we'll become a better defensive team.
That's Greg Gard last night. They beat Campbell 96-64. It was close for stretches of the second half, and then they just poured it on at the end. And as Ebo says in the morning, anytime the Human Victory cigar, Isaac Gard takes the floor, you know it's a good night for the Wisconsin Badgers. That's one of the most clever things any of us on this network have ever said. The Human Victory cigar. I play that cup for a reason because that's where I want to begin with Michael McCleary. BadgerExtra does Badgers basketball coverage for them, does excellent work. Mike, nice to see you. Thank you for being here. Does that cut and that comment from Greg Gard kind of illustrate how seasons are going to start now for the Badgers? You bring in new talent, you bring in new offensive firepower, and that part works, and then you spend the first stretch of the season trying to figure out the details and the defensive part of it?
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting that he said that Andrew Rohde is the one who early in the year finds himself in the right spot more often than not. I don't know if he would be considered the most individually talented defender that this Badgers roster has, but just having familiarity with the defensive system at Virginia, that's really what the issue is at this point. The players are just figuring out where to be. So I think that bodes well. Over the last several seasons, as they've leaned into the offensive side of the ball, the defense always does start out slow, but it does also improve. So that is generally how it's been, and I don't think there's anything to be concerned about the way it started off this year. But it was interesting to see for stretches how bad it could be, especially yesterday with the way that Campbell was hitting shots.
Well, and it felt like that was kind of similar to last year too, where it's like the offensive firepower was clearly there from the beginning. Like that clicked right away. But as guys are getting to know each other and play with each other for the first time, and then the team defense and the playing together, that takes a little time in this era of college basketball. John Blackwell, what do you have, 16 in the first half? What have you seen as you've covered him now for a couple of years? What have you seen from him coming into this season and maybe last night specifically that you maybe wouldn't have seen in the past, or just little areas of growth that we can be excited about this season?
Yeah, Greg Gard calls it moxie. I mean, he made kind of a throwaway comment at Big Ten Media Days saying that, because John and Nolan were kind of joking around and asking questions as media members, and they asked who's the funniest on the team, and Greg said you didn't used to be funny, but it might actually be you now. And I actually feel like there might be some truth to that. He's brought so much more personality to his role. He seems just so loose and confident on the floor. Working out with NBA players over the summer, it only helped his game. He's obviously added things to his game. His three-pointer looks a little bit more fluid. But I just think the confidence that he brings to the role, he looks like he's going to go out there and thinking that he's going to score 30 points every single night. And obviously, first night of the season, 1 for 1.
So he took 11 threes last night, which I don't mind. Like, they shoot a lot of threes. My worry, and this is how I remember Brad Davison's career at the end at Wisconsin, and maybe this is unfair, but I always remembered him as, well, he's going to take 11 or 12 threes, and if he hits a bunch of them, he's going to have a good night, and the Badgers will be good. And if he doesn't, like, there's not a whole lot else there. Like, good defender, good leader, but like, so that's my concern, or not even a concern with Blackwell. Let's talk about that. If his three isn't falling, what other ways can he contribute and still score? Because he's going to need to just about every night. Like, if he has an off night, the Badgers have an off night now that this is his team. So how can he be insulated maybe from a weak 3-point shooting night?
Yeah, the Badgers definitely have enough 3-point shooters. So in terms of the 3-pointer not being there, there will definitely be others on the team that could pick up the slack in that area. In regards to his own scoring there, I think that will be an important thing to see in one of these games. There's going to be a game throughout the year where it's just not falling, whether that's in the mid-range, in the 3-point. Like, he has to find a way to be consistent in a game that he just doesn't have it. And I think that's a lot of getting to the line. And I think he's added a little bit of that. Playing next to John Tonje only helped last season, I'm sure. But even through the summer practices. I mean, I just saw there was kind of an added craftiness to his game where, Jack Janicki, who's his roommate, knows John just as well as pretty much anybody on the team, is also a great defender. And, some of the moves that John was trying on him to try to just, I guess, get fouled without really doing much at all. I found that really interesting, and it seemed like it was a new element of his game. So, the free throw line will be huge. He's obviously a super physical player, so he wants to get to the rim. And he's just about the only player on the team that has the green light from the mid-range, because that's a no-no in a system that really is all about efficiency. So, yeah, he's a three-level scorer through and through. But I'd be interested to see when the shot isn't falling, just how consistent he could continue to be, because I think that's a big thing for the Badgers.
Well, and one of my favorite parts of him as a player, and I think this was true of Kamari McGee last year too, where it's like, well, screw it. I'm just going to go get in the restricted circle and just go get putbacks. And I'm just going to outmuscle people. And I really enjoy that part of his game. He's just so much stronger at his size than anybody else. And McGee too, who's even smaller. And I know he's not on the team anymore, although wasn't he in the building last night? I think Kamari McGee was there.
Yeah.
I really liked both of that parts of their game, but now obviously Blackwell, who's still on the team. I listened to what would amount to be the third or the second quarter of the game, like the second portion of the first half on the radio. And Brian Butch kept pointing out like Nick Boyd getting out and running, like finding lanes in transition, how quickly he could get to the cup. So talk about his game and what you've seen so far.
Yeah, I mean, he will run. That's something that he said even before the season started, like he was going to bring that to the game. And I think the Badgers have spoken about the things that they're telling him critically in the building out loud a lot, because I think they just want it to hammer home with him, because, he does need to settle down a little. But, some of the ways that Badgers coach Greg Gard was talking about how he needs to settle down and stuff, you would have thought that he had like 8 turnovers yesterday. He had 1. And, the one play that Greg Gard pointed to was, he threw a fastball to Nolan Winter that ended up as a turnover for Nolan Winter. I actually went back and watched it because he referenced this play, and I was like, there's no turnover during this barrage from Nick Boyd. But, it just hit Nolan so hard in the hands that he just kind of threw it anywhere. So it's a turnover for Nolan, but that's obviously caused by Nick. So, he does play too fast at times, but that speed is something that the Badgers have really not had, especially as they've transitioned over the last several years offensively. I mean, the pace has gone up, but a lot of that has to do with they're shooting more threes. So, that means more threes in transition earlier in the shot clock. So pace goes up, but they've never been a run and gun team. So to add that element and the way that he could attack defenses, especially when you have a guy like John Blackwell who kind of attacks them so methodically, it's just such a dangerous 1-2 punch. I mean, I think he played amazing yesterday, and those two are going to be a handful.
I look forward to watching them. And again, this is a byproduct of this era of college basketball, and there's parts of this in college football that I despise. But for a program that's kind of got it dialed in like Wisconsin, part of it is exciting. It's like, okay, so we see these pieces, and we're just going to see them continue to grow together and learn how to play together as the season goes along. So it's a weird byproduct of this new kind of way that college basketball is done. Michael McCleary is here. Read his work, BadgerExtra. He's on Twitter as well. Let's talk about Winter, and also, I guess, to a lesser degree, Will Garlock, because they have a couple 7-footers or, these big guys underneath. And I always see comments from Badgers fans on Twitter. It's like, man, it would be nice if our 7-footer could go down and post up and get a bucket. And is that something that, well, first of all, do you see it that way? Is that maybe a shortcoming of this team? But also, like, is that the player, Nolan Winter or Garlock or any of these guys, or is that just kind of how their offense is facilitated? Like, they're not looking for these guys to go get big and to get post-ups and to play that way, and Badgers fans need to maybe accept that or understand that.
Well, you'd think for a team that likes to play in transition, either that be shooting threes or Nick Boyd running the break by himself, getting set in the half court and throwing it into the post, that is sort of the antithesis of that sort of strategy. Now, I do think that the Badgers have elements of that. Like, again, they're not a true run and gun team. I do think they like to get things earlier in the shot clock. But you saw over the last couple of years with Stephen Crowell, I mean, sometimes you just need to throw it into Steve and, let him kind of work. And I think Nolan can do that. And I think he will be asked to do that at certain parts of the year. And you've seen it a little bit more early with Austin Grabb working out of the high post. He's a really good passer out of that area, hits the corners pretty well. I don't know if he's a guy that is going to get into the low post and hit a hook shot over somebody, but he does have good touch, so it's definitely in his wheelhouse. But Nolan Winter last year, he had one of the best offensive ratings in the country. Lower volume, but he had the best offensive rating on the Badgers based on the amount of attempts that he got per KenPom. I don't know the exact number, but I remember it being super high. So he was somebody that got his chances and finished them. So I do think that's an element of his game that he'll be able to tap into. Do I think it's as reliable as Steve when he was asked to do it? No, because I think they're different types of players. And frankly, I think Nolan just wants to be a different type of player than Steve was. But at the same time, I do think there's going to be times where they're going to need to get the ball in the post and they're going to need just a bucket, maybe over a smaller guy or if they have a mismatch. And I think Nolan really hasn't been tested in that yet, but I'm eager to kind of see where that goes.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Rapp as a passer out of the high post too, because that was, I don't want to say sneaky because it was talked about, but like Crowell was outstanding at that. That was maybe if you were to stack up all his traits as a big man, like maybe the best thing that he did relative to his peers, especially, was probably passing. And for a team that wants to shoot a lot of threes and for the most part play from the perimeter anyways, like that was a pretty significant part of his game. Is that something that you see from Nolan Winter? Like, do you see him as a playmaker? Because I'm just trying to figure, like, from what we saw last year at lower volume, where does he have room to grow and add to his game this year? Because he'll need to, now that some of those pieces that were in front of him last year aren't there anymore.
Yeah. I think he could hit a higher rate of his threes. He's going to get open looks and he'll probably take more. But he was shooting in the low 30s from three the last several seasons. So, I think he could improve in that area. Obviously he's seen as a 7-footer that can stretch the floor. So, I think this is his opportunity to start playing like that. So that's a way that he could grow. But also, that Oklahoma game, I think it's a game that he said he flushed away. He's not like considering that game as anything that was anything close to him. But his best play so far of the season, it was preseason, but so far, games in front of fans against an opponent, he faked a three, drove in with the left hand, and hit a floater over a defender. That's something that a lot of 7-footers cannot do. And that is, I don't know how many touches he's going to get where he's going to be asked to create like that. This isn't like, the offense running through Nolan Winter like it was running through Frank Kaminsky 10 years ago. But he can do that. He has really, really solid touch in a way that a guard would when he puts the ball on the floor. So, I think all those things point to Nolan's got a ton of potential. But I don't really think he needs to realize it in the way of being a 20 and 11 guy for him to have a great season. I think his role on this team could be at a lesser volume, but still showing a little bit of that versatility and maybe some more consistency from the outside.
It's little things here and there that all of a sudden add up to a sizable leap, right? A thing here and there, a shot or a play here and there. And I think with the completeness of this roster around him, which is the idea, right, of getting old and staying old in the transfer portal, like that's all that he should be asked to do. What can we look at for Badgers Extra? What do you have coming out as Badgers season really fires up now and the games actually count?
Yeah, the early couple games, it's kind of getting a feel of this team. I found it pretty interesting that the starting lineup, we heard all about this firepower, and it seems like it's going to be difficult for all players to get touches consistently throughout the season. So that's one of the things that I'm kind of paying attention to early. But outside of that, just trying to get a feel of this roster, feel of this team. And, I think the players that will be deserved to be written about will make themselves known pretty early. So I'm just eager to get the games going, and Northern Illinois on Friday, I think, will be another chance just to see the Badgers kind of come together a little bit closer to what they hope they could be.
Yeah, the picture gets a little clearer every game with new faces, and they're mixing and matching all these players together, some of them for the first time. So look forward to that. We'll follow your work. I appreciate it, man. Talk to you soon.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. Michael McCleary, Badgers Extra State Journal. Follow his work